Tekrar hoş geldiniz, şeref verdiniz. Programımızın ikinci bölümüne başlamak için gelecekte bizi neler bekliyor? Teknolojinin geleceğini anlatmak üzere Rohit Talwar'ı sahneye davet ediyorum.
Hello. Well, I think this is probably the first time that I've spoken where there are almost more people on stage than in the audience. But I will carry on. I'm hoping that one or two more people come in. My role in the next 30 minutes is to really take you on a journey into the future in the next few years and to talk about what that might mean. And I'm going to draw on two recent books we've published that have 37 authors from around the world talking about how our world might change in the next 10 years. And really I'm going to talk about four themes. Firstly, the environment we're going to be operating in. Secondly, some of those disruptive technologies that are coming through. Thirdly, the possibilities that that creates for the future. And finally, what does some of this mean for how we develop leaders who can think and act like a futurist? And where we start, I think, is what do we do? I'm a futurist. I help people think about the future. I help them scan what's coming next. I help them understand the possible scenarios and then use those insights to make better decisions today. And I think you need to look at three different horizons. Firstly, what's happening in the next 12 months and how do we use that to make sure we're going in the right direction? What is changing that could impact us? Secondly, to look further ahead at what might change in the next 3 years and think about how that might change the way the game is played in our sector and to think about what that means in terms of innovation and everything we might do, and particularly around technology. And the fourth is to look longer term and to say what might be coming that requires radical reinvention and that changes everything we do. And then to develop some scenarios to say what are 2 or 3 ways in which things could play out. Because no one can predict the future, but we can prepare for a range of possibilities. And when we have that insight, then we can say, okay, what do we need to do in the next 12 months to make sure we're innovative enough, flexible enough, and have the right skills to be prepared for anything, particularly around what's coming with technology. And if we start with the operating environment, what can we see? Well, with the rate of change in technology and science in particular, then we are going probably to see more change in the next decade than we have seen in the entire history of humanity. And let's start with the scenarios, if you like. We see 3 different scenarios. One is, if you like, quite a negative one, where the recovery is very choppy, we have lots of downturns, and we don't really recover properly in the next 10 years. And that requires us to be even more innovative in terms of how will we use technology to compete in that world. The second is maybe how we are today, where we have some optimism, but we're nervous, we gradually pull out, and it's only in the second half of this decade that we really start to see growth. And the third scenario is, if you like, the most optimistic, where innovation really drives growth and we see this massive explosion of exponential possibilities. And one of the biggest things about that environment in the next few years is what do we do about getting to a sustainable operating model and net zero emissions, net zero waste, net zero energy usage. Because we know what will happen if we don't. And the challenge is, how do we take advantage of this opportunity to actually drive growth in our businesses and to create new sectors using technology? And the first thing I'd say is it's important to understand those technologies. And what we already realize is that information technology is at the heart of this story about the future. If you look at the six of the 7 biggest companies on the planet by market capitalization, ignoring Saudi Aramco, that's an oil company, not a tech company, together these companies are worth at least $9 trillion most days. Now, it's very hard to get your head around $9 trillion, but the global equities market is about $100 trillion. So they are 9% of the entire global economy. just 6 companies, which talks about their power. To put that in context, if you add together all these companies, they're still not worth as much as those 6. And what that tells us is these companies are really driving the change. They are becoming part of everything everyone does, but they're also becoming competitors to everyone. And the challenge is, how do we innovate around these technologies to compete in the future against this? And what we know is there are a whole set of technologies coming through very quickly. Sorry, you can't see these, but when you get the slides, you'll see them. 4 key areas right now: information technology, artificial intelligence, smarter workplaces, and genetic sciences, biology. We're seeing radical pace of innovation in all of these. And what we're already seeing is the boundary blurring between what we thought was human and normal and what we thought was science fiction, science fantasy, what was human and the physical, what was human and technological. The boundaries are blurring. If we look ahead in the next 5 to 10 years, then we see AI going even further. We see lots of innovation around new materials. We start to see the boundary between the body and science and technology changing. We see radical advances in the genetic sciences, in healthcare, every sector being transformed by technology. AI is probably the biggest game changer. And what we can see is in the next 4 to 10 years, we're already used to it giving us recommendations, advising on mortgages, advising doctors on the right treatment, doing surgery. In the next 4 to 10 years, it will be doing our dating for us, not just advising us on who to date, but actually making the date, managing our health from our pocket, managing every aspect of our lives. And the question is, how fast will we get to that point where AI is as smart as us or smarter? I believe in 5 years, AI will be as smart as 80% of us 80% of the time. My mobile phone is already smarter than me most of the time. And we have to get used to that idea of AI penetrating society. We also know that other technologies are coming, like quantum computing. The 2 key things about quantum computing. One is almost no one understands what it really is. And the second is most people who think they do lie. Right now we have some quantum computers. We have a few people who can program quantum. But no one really understands how it changes our world, where you move from having a 1 or 0 at the base of your code to having infinite possible states. How do you deal with that? How do you change your organization to cope with that? I think quantum will be the big game changer again. We're also at that point where we're changing the boundaries between humans and science and technology. We're using pharmaceuticals to enhance our cognition, to be able to concentrate more. Adderall, modafinil help us really enhance and give us super concentration, super mental performance, genetic enhancements, physical enhancements, electronic enhancements to the brain. In the next 5 years, we will see radical shifts coming that start to create an almost new class of humans. And how we prepare for that is a real challenge. All the pharma community, all the medical device community have suddenly woken up to this. But more importantly, Silicon Valley is putting over $500 billion into this field of human enhancement. And that's just what we know about. So in the next 5 years, we're not just going to be talking about smarter technology, we're going to talk about smarter humans powered by technology. How we get our heads around workplace, education, lifestyles, when some people choose to have it and others don't, I think is one of our big challenges. We're also starting to see neurotech like Neuralink, other headsets that allow us to communicate directly with computers, share our thoughts. We can already read the images that someone's seeing wirelessly. We've been able to communicate between 2 brains, small amounts of information. We've been able to bypass cells in the brain that are damaged by Alzheimer's, so you can effectively restore some parts of people's memory, restore some parts of their physical mobility. These technologies are very early right now. They're toys almost right now. But in the next 5 years, we'll see major advancements. So in 5 years' time, not only will we be accessing our devices with our fingers, our voice, but just with direct thought control. We're also in an era of becoming smarter and smarter with our materials. So we know about graphene, But what we'll see is materials that are stronger, lighter, and more flexible than anything we've seen before. So we'll be able to print in 3D and 4D materials that change their properties over time. So a building that literally changes its ability to reflect heat or absorb it, change its shape depending on what's happening in the world around it. And that takes us to the next level, the promise of nanotechnology, or what's called atomically precise manufacturing, where we will be able to manipulate at the atomic level materials so we can design absolutely specifically the functionality of any object that we manufacture, not just at the macro level, but at the atomic level. And we're moving into this era of synthetic and digital biology, where we will be able to design the precise functionality of molecules. Already we've been able to store over 1 million books worth of information on a single drop of water. We'll start to be looking at growing buildings and storing data in the walls of our buildings. This is not science fantasy anymore. This is the boundaries blurring. And then we see blockchain, the smart economy, smart contracts, and the crypto economy. This is moving at pace. 2 years ago, people were saying, blockchain, okay, we understand it, it's a very secure mechanism, but we can't see any reason for using it. Now most organizations are waking up to the idea that if you want something that's super secure, because of the way it's encoded, and because it's distributed, so if you change it in one place, you have to change it everywhere, and you can't do that. That you also can't change the transaction once you've recorded it, and it's totally visible. Well, pretty much every organization is being challenged to do that. So blockchain becomes the reason for doing that. Smart contracts allow us to automate more and more of what we do, so we don't need humans involved. Whether it's financial transactions or anything, you just have a contract that's fully automated. And then that's feeding the crypto economy. This morning it was worth about $3 trillion. Bitcoin, the first crypto coin, the fastest growing financial asset in history. Today there are about 300 million users of the crypto economy. That is the fastest growing technology adoption in history. Within 4 years we'll probably be at 1 billion. By 2030, the crypto market could be $200 trillion. Now, whether you like it or not, this is a development that's happening, and we have to understand it. We have to understand why corporates like Tesla are putting it on their balance sheet, why banks are investing, why high net worths are putting money in, why businesses are redesigning to accept crypto. And then we've seen the concept of Metaverse is becoming very popular since Facebook rebranded to Meta. Because what we've seen is that for the last 20 years, people have been gaming, playing computer games online in these virtual worlds. We saw Second Life in 2003. Some of us tried to use it, but we spent all our time walking into walls if we were over 40. But now we're seeing all sorts of things happening. People earning a living in the metaverse, creating outfits for other people, building homes for them, building buildings, creating online training and conference experiences. And Facebook believed that the metaverse or the ecosystem of metaverses could be worth more than the entire social media economy. And that's why they're betting their business on it. They believe it could make them the most valuable company in the world. We're working with a bank that is trying to create mortgages for people who are building houses in the metaverse. This is a rapid shift from one of the most conservative banks on the planet. We're also then saying, well, okay, with all these technology advances, what possibilities do they create? Well, firstly, we're talking about AI and other technologies really becoming the life support system for everything we do in our lives, our health, our education, every aspect of it, and literally everything around us becoming smart, our chairs, our clothes, everything having sensors and intelligence built into it, so that we start to learn how to operate in a truly smart environment. The big challenge is whether we can overcome the complexity of our organizations. Because the reason why McKinsey have interviewed CEOs around the world, and only 16%, 1/6, believe they're getting value from their digital transformation effort. That means 84% are not delivering. Why is that? Well, because our organizations and our cultures are too complex, and we can't fit digital on top of those organizations. And so we're having to start to think about, well, how do we prioritize? How do we build our technology capability? How do we recruit the right talent? And how do we really make sure we get our technology in order to take advantage of the opportunities of the future? That is forcing businesses, and we'll see more and more businesses questioning what they're in business for, how they're going to operate, and starting to say, well, look, we can't compete with businesses that are born digital. We have to start again with a corporation zero mindset, saying, let's design for digital. Start with a clean sheet of paper, think about the outputs we need, then design all our processes in software to take advantage of the latest technology, to simulate that to prove that it works, and then to think about, well, where do we add the physical elements, the people, the buildings, the machinery, and really a very different approach to reinvent our business for a digital world. What this means is we're moving into a world where we can have very personalized education and health care, literally monitoring each student, understanding whether they understand something, and then tailoring the content they receive. So when they get home from school or university, if they didn't understand a topic, finding a different way of teaching them that, or videos that might make more sense, monitoring their progress, personalizing their learning. Exactly the same with healthcare. We're already at the point where I can have sensors on my body that are monitoring me 24/7. And if they think that I might be about to have a heart attack in 30, 40 minutes because of the changing signals, they will instantly alert a medic and an ambulance to come and get me, and then gently wake me up and alert me to the fact that I'm about to have a serious event. This is where we already are with personalized medicine. Imagine where we're going to get to in the next few years. That technology is also moving to create truly smart farms where we can manage our farms far better, monitor literally every plant, every part of our fields to say, how do we do this? How do we create vertical farms with more productivity? And how do we move to being able to create everything in the laboratory so we're not using valuable resources and creating methane and carbon dioxide emissions by having live animals, but how do we create everything we need to eat in the laboratory? And helping also to then tackle the global food challenge where more than 800 million people are going hungry. We're already moving to this world of invisible payments, but within 5 years, it will be very common for us to be able to walk in anywhere, take what we want and walk straight out. You already see this in Amazon's Go and Amazon Fresh stores. Because of the sensors, the cameras, and our prepayment facility we've set up, we can do exactly that. Robots stack the shelves. We'll see more and more of that coming, and our environment basically being much more seamless in our experiences. The law will be rewritten in the next few years to take more and more advantage of what technology enables. In Estonia, if you have a financial claim of less than 7,000 euros, it can now be dealt with entirely digitally with no human involvement. In China's internet courts, digital technology-related cases can now be dealt with by AI judges with no human involvement. Only 2% of the cases go to claim. And their view is that they want to rewrite the law in software because the law was written before software existed, and we would never have written it this way. If we look at our homes, we're moving to more and more eco-friendly housing, retrofitting our existing houses, but also getting to the point where how do we build faster and faster to accommodate people's needs? This is a house built in China using 3D printing. It cost less than $6,000 to build and was printed and put up in less than 3 hours. That is the kind of innovation we're enabling. We're also seeing ideas from the crypto economy coming into the real world. In the crypto economy, I can buy a tiny fraction of a token. So with 1 Bitcoin, I can buy down to 18 decimal places. So not 1,000th of a Bitcoin, not 1 millionth, not 1 trillionth, not 1 quadrillionth, but 1 quintillionth of a Bitcoin. 18 decimal places. I can't do that with an Amazon share. I have to buy a whole share. Maybe some places like Robinhood have a simulated version. But what if I could do that with my house? What if I could take a $100,000 house or a 1 million lira house and break that into 1 billion tokens of 1/10 of a lira each? Then I could buy 20% with my cash. I could take a mortgage for 20%. The other 60% I can sell as tokens, or the bank can sell as tokens. Anyone can buy a token. Maybe when you buy a coffee for 275 liras, they upgrade that to 300 liras, and 25 lira go to buying tokens in a house. The good thing is you can then sell those tokens whenever you want. You don't have to wait for me to sell the house. If I want to sell a piece of my house to get some money, I don't have to sell the whole house or go into an expensive equity release scheme. We can start to tokenize everything in society and change the models because of these fully automated tools that we see in the crypto economy coming into the real world and allowing us to do these things with no human involvement. We also can see we're moving to autonomous vehicles. I think it's going to be at least 5 years because before we see these on the road, because there's still some issues that autonomous cars can't deal with, but there are also the legal and moral issues. So when we are driving and we're about to have an accident, we make an instant judgment about whether to hit that child, this person, or that stationary car. I have to make that decision instantly. I've got to hit something. When we're giving that responsibility to a car, who sets the rules? How do we decide which is more valuable to society? Is it the $500,000 car? Is it the person who's 90 years old and almost finished with their life? Or is it the child that could invent a cure for cancer and potentially be worth hundreds of billions to the planet? Who makes those choices? Which is why I think it will take 5 years to get them on the road. We've also got flying cars coming. 4 kilometers from my house, they are building a vertiport where flying taxis will be able to take off. I think we'll see these before we see autonomous vehicles. And we're going to see crypto entering our world more and more, faster and faster. In El Salvador on September the 7th, started to accept Bitcoin. You could go into any shop and pay in Bitcoin. It gave every citizen $30 in Bitcoin to get them going. Their president was on TV, and every day he's tweeting about this. He taught the country how to download a crypto wallet and put their money into it and how to use it. Incredible. Could you imagine your president or Boris Johnson in the UK trying to teach people how to do crypto? Little bit of a stretch of the imagination. But we're also seeing these central bank digital currencies coming. China is pushing very hard with its digital yuan. You could see easily a block of countries around China all accepting that as their central currency. But within 5 years, I think most countries will either have their own central bank digital currency, they'll be using a common currency like the digital yuan or digital dollar, or maybe they'll use one of the stable coins that are already out there that have their price effectively fixed. But we're moving to a point where we're going to see crypto for everyone. 2 weeks ago, Mastercard announced that every bank and every merchant that uses Mastercard will be able to accept and sell crypto. So that means if you and I want to buy crypto, we will be able to do it through Mastercard. We won't have to learn the complexities of the crypto exchanges. We'll be able to buy it through them, hold it through their partner, sell it through them, making it very fast to go to mass adoption. And we're seeing companies increasingly saying, well, we'll create our own crypto token, like Disney. And basically saying, anything you buy from them, any travel, any toys, merchandise, anything you do on a park, you can do all inside their own crypto economy. And people will create services within that. That's a big challenge to people like Mastercard and Visa. But it's a shift that's coming. The technology also means that you and I can become bankers. Already in the crypto economy, you can go in and lend your money to people through an automated market maker and make 70,000% annual interest. How much interest does your bank give you? So we're seeing this happen already. But we're going to have what's called smart money. We're already almost there. So if I have 100 lira in the bank, that 100 lira doesn't know it's mine. The bank knows I have 100 lira, but the 100 lira in the bank is just dumb. Doesn't know who owns it. But as we start to add intelligence to that money will know that it's yours. And you will be able to set rules to say to that money, look, all day long, we want you to be looking for the best possible interest rate for yourself, where there are no switching costs, and automatically move to wherever you get the best interest rates. That is fantastic for you as a saver, but a nightmare for the bank, because it doesn't know how many assets it has or how much it has on its balance sheet to be able to lend against. So we're going to see fantastic transformations. So the final point is, well, how do we as leaders deal with this? How do we make sure that we're ready for the future? And the first is to imagine having a real advisory board. People in your head that you can question. You would say, well, how would so-and-so do this? How would Bill Gates deal with this? Or how would that person I really admire deal with this? But also, who are the people you put around you who bring you new ideas? Who are the customers you talk to that are most forward-looking? Who are the suppliers? Who is that advisory board you have around you of people who are motivating you to look at what's next that's coming, whether it's consultants, advisors, or whatever? Who are your personal advisory board that keeps stretching you? And as a leader, thinking then about, well, what talent do we need? How do we build people's digital literacy and their ability to understand what's happening in the world? How do we change our leadership models to be able to look out and bring those ideas back, and to look outside and see what others are doing and preparing for the future in order to challenge our own organization and turning everyone in the organization into part of our radar system to find what's coming next? In order to do that, one of the simplest ways we found is just video. Getting people to listen to podcasts, to watch short videos, 5-10 minutes a day of 2 or 3 videos of what's changing in the world. So you very quickly raise people's understanding of what's coming, what's possible, how it could change our world. So this has been a very quick tour through the technology landscape and what's changing. I think for me, the critical challenge for all our organizations is we have to change our dance routines. We all know how to dance if a competitor changes their strategy, if a customer changes their requirement, if there's an economic downturn. We have a dance routine to deal with that. Now everything is changing at the same time. Technologies are coming that we don't understand. Business models are changing in ways we don't understand. So we're having to learn lots of different dance routines at the same time. So we have to get really uncomfortable with being really uncomfortable. Getting on the dance floor, tripping over our own feet, treading on people's toes, and looking terrible. But what we know is if we don't get on the dance floor, you're never going to succeed. You can't learn to dance by writing a business plan for it. You can't learn to dance by analyzing the best dancers on paper or benchmarking the best dancers on paper. The only way you can really learn to dance is to get on the floor and try and work out what to do. Now, some people will try and use the same dance step they've used for 30 years. The problem is that dance step will look really out of date, and you'll feel really bad when suddenly no one wants to dance with you. So I hope I've given you some ideas about the future, about the possibilities that are coming over the horizon, and practical ways in which we can start to prepare for that. Thank you. And what we've agreed with the organizers is if you want to buy any of our books, you can go to our website, fastfuture.com, take a picture, use that coupon code, and you can get 25% off everything. You can also get our newsletter for free, which provides regular ideas about the things I've been talking about and what else is new. And you can have a subscription to that for 1 year for free. So if you just go to our website, you can do that and basically sign up for those. I think we have a few minutes for questions.
Yes, sure.
Okay, so let's open the floor to some questions. Anyone got any questions or comments or observations on what you've just heard? No? All made perfect sense. Clear for, oh, gentleman there is being brave. And we have a colleague here who will translate for me if...
I'll say it in English if you like, and he may translate it to Turkish. I'm very much interested in this smart money concept. We're talking here in Turkey about money with expiry date and things like that, because everybody wants to keep the money somewhere to feel safe, and when it's not circulating, it doesn't mean anything. So how do you think will this transformation take place, the technology enablement and the mindset of people? How will this change go?
Well, what's happening now is the innovators don't care about the rest of us. They're moving at a crazy speed, whether it's in the crypto economy, the fintech economy. They're just coming up with these ideas, and then they're building them literally in weeks. They're showing how you can do this. They're building these ideas faster than government or companies can even organize the first meeting to discuss them. And this is crazy. The gap is growing. And the real challenge, I hear all the time people arguing against these things, saying they're bad, but what you're really saying is it's bad to think and to be creative. The challenge is to raise our own digital literacy, to raise our understanding, and then have an informed conversation about what we want to do and what are the smartest things to do around dealing with these new ideas. Now, sometimes they may be really bad and really volatile for the economy. So we either want to prevent them or we want to regulate them. I always find it funny, though, when people talk about regulating crypto and banning crypto. That's a $3 trillion economy. The most unregulated and riskiest market in the world is what? Derivatives, worth $1 quadrillion. It nearly destroyed the planet in 2008. Yet the regulation on that is almost zero, really. So we have to decide where we want to accept risk, how we create the framework, and most importantly, how we educate society, decision makers, policy makers, to understand how to do smart regulation around this and how to create test beds to see how this might work. So China, 1.3 billion people, didn't just launch a digital currency for the whole nation. It started with a trial of 20 million people to say, let's see how this works. Let's work out where the issues might be. Let's work out the second and third order impacts that we couldn't imagine, and then let's innovate with that. Let's then evolve it with that. And that's the mindset we have to have. Learning, experimentation, smart regulation. Anyone else got a question or a comment? Okay, well, thank you very much. I hope that made some sense. Thank you.